Looking to take your financial knowledge to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to Ask Ralph, offering accounting, technical, and financial advice. Whether you're looking to save taxes or improve your business, he's got you covered. Here's your host of Ask Ralph, Ralph Eastup Jr.
Hello and welcome back to the Ask Ralph Show as we continue our series on franchising success. If you've missed any of our sessions so far, you go back to our podcast site and you can catch up. Right now, we're going to talk about selecting a franchise. Now, in our last session, we talked a little bit about the ways to select them. That was either attending, using a broker or looking at the franchise handbook or asking around. But today, for this session, we're going to talk about, how do you consider this investment? And there's some key components to that. Number one is demand. And this sort of goes without saying. If you have to ask yourself this question and you don't even understand it, then you're probably not supposed to be in franchising. But demand, is there a demand for the franchisor's products or services in your community? And that's a big thing to ask. For example, let's say that you live in the middle of the country. Let's pick on Iowa, for example. Well, I don't see a lot of benefits in Iowa to opening a surf shop. Obviously, geographically, a surf shop's probably not going to do that well in Iowa. Now, maybe, there's some lakes and things like that, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But generally, if it's an ocean type surf shop, it's probably not going to be the best product in your environment. You also need to ask, is this a seasonal business? Are you dealing with a fad? What are the products and services? What's it like? They generate repeat business. You also have to wonder, is the franchisor's name going to bring business, or are you going to be creating a market for the franchise for the first time in this area? For example, let's say you opened up a McDonald's franchise. Well, obviously McDonald's is a very well-known name. So there's going to be demand for that, assuming that, that's a product in your community, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel on, determining what is a McDonald's. Next one is competition. And I think a lot of people miss out on this one. They get past that. They're saying, oh, this is a great franchise. Let's use McDonald's as another example. So, there's a McDonald's here. Okay. Well, you got to look at your competition. What is the level of competition, both nationally, regionally, but more importantly, locally? How many franchise and company-owned outlets in your area? Does the franchise sell products or services that are easily available online or through a catalog? How many competing companies are there, including competing franchises that sell similar products or services at a similar price? These are key questions. You may open up a McDonald's, but you got to look at your particular town and say, okay, well, what other fast food is available? Well, I'm going to open up on this corner. Well, across the street is a Hardee's, and then on the corner of that is a Burger King, and on the corner of that is a Wendy's and a Carl's Jr., whatever else. You got to think about, is there enough demand? Is there enough, is there enough business to have that much competition? And then one of the things you really got to concern yourself with is, are you going to be competing against the company itself? Now, once you get past the demand and competition, then you've got to really ask yourself a tough question, what is your ability to operate the business? You need to understand that sometimes franchises will fail. What will happen to your business if the franchisor closes up shop? Do you need the franchisor's ongoing training, advertising, or other help to remain in business? Will you have the same access to their pipeline of suppliers and buying materials? Could you conduct the business alone if you had to cut the costs or lay anyone off? So that's a really tough question to ask yourself. And you just have to think about this from the terms of, okay, well, what happens if the franchisor, goes belly up? Can you still operate this franchise? And that comes down to stability as well. Now, the next question you want to ask yourself is name recognition. Buying a franchise gives you the right to associate with the franchisor name or brand. An established franchise with a well-known name and good reputation is more likely to draw customers than a relatively new or unknown franchise. You have to realize that if you're investing in a franchise, you'll be responsible for creating customer demand for its goods or services in your area. So these are the things you want to ask yourself. How long has the franchisor been in business? Name and brand recognition for the franchisor and its products or services, and whether the franchisor has a reputation for quality products or services. All of this will be mentioned somewhat in the required disclosure document, but you still need to understand the name brand that you're getting into. For example, let's say we talk about a dollar store. My son's big into the dollar stores. Well, Dollar General is a well-known name. but there may be others. You need to understand, what is going on with that particular franchise. Then you definitely want to do this next part, and that is take a look at the complaints about the franchise. Check with local Better Business bureaus. Take a look at online and do some Google searching for, people who have had problems with a franchise. Those type of people are going to have stuff out there. Now, you can't just assume that everything they say is correct. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true, but it's something you may want to do some digging into. And if you've got some complaints about a particular franchise, then I would advise you to contact the people who were involved and just ask them a point blank question. You might come away with a meeting from them saying, well, you don't really think they were the right person to talk to because maybe they went into the franchise and didn't really have enough capital, or they didn't understand what they were getting into. Another thing when you're looking at franchises, do they have the training and support services that you need? What kind of formalized training do they have? What backgrounds do the current franchise owners have? Talk to other franchisees and say, hey, I've always been a plumber, and now I'm thinking about opening up this Burger King franchise. Tell me about your experience. And what do other or current franchise owners say about the quality and usefulness in the training they received? That's a big deal. You also want to look at the franchisor's experience. Typically what you're going to find are these franchise opportunities are going to be run by what we would call an entrepreneur. But you have to take a look and see, does this entrepreneur, is this a new business to them? Were they successful in something else and now they're parlaying that into something new? Or are they just frankly jumping from franchise to franchise, creating a business model that doesn't really work, but they cash in on people getting involved in the franchise, but then could care less about what it does after the fact? And you have to look at growth too. A franchisor that grows too quickly may not be able to support its franchisees with the services it promises them. You got to investigate the franchisor's financial assets and resources. Are they large enough and sufficient enough to handle the demand? Let's say, for example, you've got a gym company. Let's say a person has a gym and they've started this franchise, opportunity for everybody. And they're talking to a lot of people. They're opening up a lot of areas. Are they going to have the financial stability that they need to be successful? They're going to be able to support a national training front. Are they going to be able to, handle, national advertising? And, how strong are their supplier lines? How resilient are they with the economy? Are they ready to move forward? Because if you're banking on their support, and their training and their model, and they grow too quickly, you might wait on hold for hour upon hour to speak to someone in the internal office, but they may not even have enough staff members to really roll out their franchise in an appropriate manner. So that's the thing you want to find out about, what is their growth plan? I think frankly, you want to take a look at that and make sure they're not growing too fast. So hopefully this was helpful. In our next session on franchise, we're going to talk about the franchisor disclosure document. So don't forget to tune in for our next session.
You've been listening to Ask Ralph, brought to you by Saggio Accounting Plus. Please subscribe to and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. Our podcast is produced by Carolyn Peters. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Ask Ralph Media. You can also hear me each week on 1450 WILM and on 1410 WDOV in Delaware, and on the iHeartRadio app. Submit your questions or ideas for future shows by sending an email to AskRalph@AskRalph.com.
The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.